Hello, lovers of the world. So, great news. I manifested Maria the Matchmaker. Woohoo!
Here I am.
And Maria, I just want you to know I've been practicing something for you. So I am so pleased to present to you today Maria Avgiditis Pyrgiotakisis. She is the founder of Agape Match, which I will argue is maybe the best matchmaking agency in the world. Of course, everybody is looking for different things, but I found Maria 5 years ago when I was doing in-depth research in New York City to see who is the best of the best. And I scoured the Yelp reviews and the Google Map reviews. And I ended up even having a consultation with someone who worked with Maria. It's a bit out of my budget at the time, but it was just really exciting to make that connection. And I think I especially resonated with the name of your company, Maria. You talk about agape in your book as the love between partners. And in some of my spiritual meditation, I resonate with agape as this idea of this love that flows between all of us, even between people that maybe on the surface I don't like, but it's just this interconnection between all things. And I think I've found a way to feel that with everyone. And I just admire your fierce compassion. And I love how agape has grown. I think even in that first meeting, I just saw this impulse to help women. And now you have the Ask a Matchmaker podcast. You have these incredible agape escapes. And you published this amazing book, Ask a Matchmaker. If you haven't seen it, please go get a copy, watch my review, which was the previous episode, because I wanted to just dive right in and go even beyond the book. So, oh my gosh, Maria, I'm so excited to have you here. I'm kind of nervous.
I'm so happy to be here. So yeah, I actually saw your book review. I never do that stuff, but I was like, oh, this is nice. I wish it was really, I mean, I've gotten overwhelmingly positive reviews, especially from audiences I wasn't expecting the book to reach, which was men, but that makes me really happy. That means that, this could fix dating. So yeah, I'm really happy that you saw yourself in the pages.
I absolutely did. And as I mentioned in my review, I have been trying to find a boyfriend since I was about 13 years old and first got hormones and boobs. And it's just been really challenging for me. I think that previously in my 20s, I was really depressed about it. And I did a 3-year spiritual program to try to feel, full and whole, and really accepted this honest, cutthroat feedback. I did eating coaching. I've done calling in the one 3 times and kind of meticulously done all the exercises, the manifesting. I read Attached. I read Love Addiction. I read John Berger. I even moved to Austin because of John Berger's book, Make a Move. And I went on 90 dates in 90 days. And I had an accountability partner. So I had to tell her every single time I didn't want to go on a second date to make sure it wasn't just some stupid reason in my head. So I've gotten a lot better at dating. I've learned a ton about myself. I have incredibly happy, full life. I'm just so joyful and my life is so good. I feel like it's almost presumptuous to ask for more. But there's just this whisper in my brain, why is this thing not happening for me? So I wanted to dive right into manifesting, because one of the things that I find is that I can manifest things so well. If I have a bad relationship, I can just put a thought out and say, I want to have a better relationship with my advisor. And then suddenly he'll call me out of the blue. Or, I wanted you on this podcast and here you are. Or, even things like I got the co-founder of Airbnb to invest in my last company. I was just a teacher, building a tech company. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like whenever I try to manifest this area of my life, things happen, but I just bring in the wrong person. And so I don't know why. And so I was just wondering if we could talk a little bit more about manifesting.
Absolutely. But I just want to say 2 points here. Number one,
I just said a lot.
I don't think it's presumptuous to ask for more. I think it's reasonable to ask to share this incredible full life you have with someone else. Because as a species, as a mammal human species, we do have an instinct to connect. We do have this instinct to want to share our joy. And I don't think it's presumptuous at all. I think it's a completely reasonable ask. I also want to clarify that, you're using the word manifest as a verb, but in the book it's used as a noun. And I make
Oh,
that
okay, that's a
distinction
really
is a very important distinction because like I say in the book, I don't know if I really am that woo-woo. I'm not
yes.
as a person, I'm quite like logical, but in a manifest, so like how a pilot would have like a manifest of an airplane, it guides you, in their case, the manifest tells you how many souls are on board. But here, your manifest is telling you like what soul or what person is the right person for you. So it's your map to be able to identify who is supposed to share this life with you. And it's less about just putting it out there and hoping that, the universe delivers. And it's more about, okay, well, while you're dating now, you have to use this manifest to identify. It's your compass, essentially, to identify, okay, am I going out to the right places that would help me meet this person that I've written about? Am I going on first dates with people or second dates, more specifically with people that fit in this? As I date someone, third, fourth, fifth dates, do they still reflect what's written on this manifest? Or am I being distracted because someone is giving me attention? Or am I passing off the pink and red flags because I have someone to call every night? I think that keeping that manifest, the integrity of it is really important.
Yes, that's great. So I think that kind of brings me to what I feel like I'm really having trouble identifying who this person is. And I mean, part of the reason I think is because I didn't have a relationship growing up to observe. I was raised by a single mom, and, my dad left before I was born. He still is, like, mad that I was born at all. It's kind of a problem. So, I feel like, when I write these manifests, I mean, there's some things that are pretty obvious. I want someone who wants a long-term relationship. I mean, not long-term. I want someone who wants a marriage. And, I mean, I know it's tricky, but like I did freeze my eggs. I would still like to have children if possible. Want someone who's open to kids and then kind, caring, consistent. But then I feel like when I go on dates, I keep discovering things that are just total deal breakers for me. Just kind of like a total lack of curiosity about the world or alcoholism or addiction to smoking or just zero ambition at all. And I mean, it's not like, I don't know, I didn't even think ambition was important to me, but like during the pandemic, I created a nonprofit that helped 100,000 kids through COVID. I'm obsessed with, trying to find systems to solve climate change. And when someone just doesn't have any interest in making the world a better place, it's just, I don't know, it's kind of hard to connect. I don't know. I just feel like I'm just having such a hard time kind of identifying who that person is and where to find him.
You're saying a lot of things, so I don't know when
Please
to talk in the sense of
talk
like,
whatever
here's
you
some
want. You can just
feedback.
yes.
So let's take it from the top.
Okay.
You just told us your origin story, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like that's really coloring in your narrative of
Mm,
how you date. And I listen, every person comes with baggage. You could have been raised with two parents who were, you know, terrible people to each other, and they could have been great parents to you, but you still don't learn strong conflict resolution skills. You could have been raised by two people who have, fantastic ambition, and they both, egg each other on, to meet their work and career goals. But then you could have been neglected as a child or been left with the nanny, and that becomes your true attachment. So everyone has some sort of baggage. Obviously, yours is, it seems like, born out of trauma just based on the small things that you shared. And I'm sorry.
it's totally
At the
fine.
same time, this is the life that you've lived and it has value.
Absolutely.
I know it's look, I'm not a therapist and I don't pretend to be because otherwise I couldn't get away with any of the things that I say because that's not, a therapist's job is not necessarily to tell you what to do. It's to help identify the triggers and use the right vocabulary so you can, move through the world in a maybe in a different way. So what I would tell you here is you have to get rid of that as your narrative. Like that is your origin story, but the next thing that you said to us is like you created this nonprofit and it seems like you're really proud of it, right? But anytime I hear the word ambition, like I was okay with, you saying I don't want to date someone who lacks curiosity. I'm with you. I get it. I totally understand that. I get that even from like a personal perspective of, who am I friends with? But That word ambition is so tricky because
Mm,
everyone has a very different definition of ambition. And when you were describing your own ambition, you sort of defined it for anyone listening, right? So if you're not changing the world, which is a huge ask, you're not ambitious enough for me. That's what I'm hearing.
Thank you for reflecting that. I feel like you're right. I mean, I do think I don't know that I necessarily am still carrying around my story. I feel like it's more like a way I'm trying to explain to myself why I've ended up in this situation, but I do think that you're right about the piece of ambition. Just it's not really fair to expect that of someone. What are what are
So
some
again, you
yeah.
have this very way of, I don't know if you realize it,
Well, tell me. I'm here to learn.
because even now your response is it's almost borderlines on like self-deprecation.
Hmm.
Like you said, where I've ended up. No, this is just your journey. This is your timeline. Right?
Hmm.
Like, I would rather you be single and have a full life and pick the right person than for you to be in a miserable relationship with a guy you met when you were like 25 and you're just like living together, but like separately. Right. And I'm not saying that these are the two extremes. What I'm saying is that everyone has their own timeline, everyone has their own journey, and everyone has their own lessons they need to learn. I don't think you ended up anywhere because nothing has happened to you, right? You are still living, you're still healthy. And I think you still have certain things that you want to participate in, which is being in a loving relationship and possibly parenthood. And by the way, those two things are not mutually exclusive,
For sure.
right?
I mean, I've done
Now, I
IVF
want to go back
twice.
to that ambition thing because I want to give you the
Yes.
reality check here of what most people are like. Most people do not have the problem solving entrepreneurship bug. And I think that's a good thing because I think if you are quite entrepreneurial, it's really important for you to find a person who's an anchor. And I say this as an entrepreneur. Like, it's okay to to have the elements of entrepreneurship. And what I mean by that is, people have these sort of personality types even if they don't have their own business, right? They can have a very creative problem-solving skill set or be able to go 50 miles an hour on getting things done. But that doesn't mean that your match is someone who is just the same. It means that you need to find someone who is supportive of you, who is protective of your emotional space, who can provide you the emotional balance at home when you're logging off of that. I think it's incredible that you were able to do that during the pandemic. I also think that most people, especially during the pandemic and post, everyone's just trying, I don't want to say survive, but there's like a lot of things happening, especially in the age bracket that you're dating. So, your age bracket, it's going to include men who have young kids, who are divorced and want to date again. It's going to include men who might be participating in caregiving responsibilities with their siblings or by themselves. It's going to include people who have had previous relationship history that's created patterns or created their own biases of how they approach relationships. And I say all this because most people are just going to their 9 to 5 and coming home, and to them getting to the next promotion is ambitious enough. And I don't want to take away the dignity of someone's goal orientedness just because they don't measure to your personal ambition.
Absolutely. Okay, I wanna take this with some humility though, because I noted the last comment where I'm like, "Yes, I'm terrible." You're right. So I think that within that, I hear what you're saying in terms of having this kind of entrepreneurial problem-solving spirit, and there kind of being a limited amount of people in the world who have that, and that for someone like me, having an anchor is really valuable. So when I read your book, you talked about these different types like explorer and director. And I had kind of an aha moment because I find myself running these companies, but where I really feel at home is in my artistic space. When I'm creating, when I'm not in charge of all these operations, when I'm making my podcast, I used to be an actress, but then I just needed a way to make money and I ended up starting companies. So I just wonder, like, where do I find this anchor guy? I mean, where does he hang out? What city is he in?
I think it's just about expanding who you could be with that you never thought of because the stuff that you have valued just doesn't present in the way that you are familiar with. So like I'm going to give you a really interesting example. My husband used to work in academia. Okay. And so I know all of his friends, they're all, in research positions at universities. And, academia pays a certain amount. It does have a lot of, job stability, luckily, but it's very hard work. And if you don't know the language or the lingo of how they operate at 9 to 5, when they come home, they're saying stuff like, yeah, I work in research, but they're not telling you about like what they publish. They're not telling you about what they discovered. They're not telling you about this incredible problem that they solved that now is being purchased by, a big tech company so that they can use that in their own research or the grant money that was put into that. Like there's so many things that happen in just research. And now, my husband, he works in pharma and it's the same thing. Like my husband's not talking about like the new laser they got. He's not talking about this technology is going now for FDA. Like there's just so many things that you're just not aware of because you haven't participated in. I'm not saying you specifically, but you're not familiar with the inner workings of everyone you meet, right? If you're a business owner, if you're someone who starts businesses, your social career circle is going to be people who know about KPIs and CRMs and
Yeah.
marketing and brand strategy. But that's business lingo, right? There's a whole other world out there that's doing similar work that provides them a lot of value and, self-validation, and it's worth it. But because you're not around it, because you're not surrounded by that language, you're just not aware of it. So what everyone does, what you do when you meet people that don't know your world, most people, you say the general stuff. You're not giving them the whole marketing plan, right? You're not giving them a deck. And similar to those industries. So what I would tell you is that like, it's not about where are they, and it's not about like what they do for a living. It's more of like how you navigate in meeting people from now on, which is, you told me that you have such a value for curiosity. Now you actually have to be curious about the person that you're speaking to. And I'm not saying that you haven't, but it's about asking questions in a different way. For instance, like pretend it's a job interview, asking someone, so what kind of problems do you solve at work? What's been the best thing about being where you're at? What's been the hardest thing? Which is something, these are questions that you would normally see at like a job interview, but it's really you asking that person, how do you spend 40 hours a day each week? Just so I can better understand like how you feel good when you're at work. And you can even practicing by talking to people, you can learn so much about people. Like I remember meeting this one woman, she's a barista at Starbucks, at my local Starbucks. She has severe ADHD and she loves working at Starbucks because it's the one career that's like being a barista has helped her manage her ADHD in a way where she feels at peace working and doing multiple orders at once 40 hours a week. And I think you could just learn so much just having that curiosity of like, how are you spending your 40 hours? Because I think that just blows open all of your opportunities of like who you could be with.
Maria, I love what you're saying, and I'm going to push back a little bit on it
Push
because
back.
I feel like I'm incredibly open to giving people second chances and to dating a guy who I find boring or not the physical type that I am interested in. And what I've been finding is I've been meeting these guys who are so wrong for me. Like the last guy I dated on our second date, he got so drunk that he ended up ditching me and then like texted me afterwards as if nothing happened. The guy before that, he was really excited about me. I noticed he was kind of a little bit weird. I thought maybe on the autism spectrum. And then by the end of the month, it was really clear that he had some very severe mental illness that needed like
How are
very
you meeting
specialized
both
treatment.
of these men?
Well, basically, I mean, Tinder, Bumble, sometimes I ask friends for
So
introductions.
your friends, these two specific individuals, how did you meet them?
One of them I met at a holiday party for digital nomads, and the other one I met on Tinder, and the guy before that I met on a boat. He was a sailor.
How of these three people, were any of them introduced to you by a friend?
No, I recently did get started asking people for introductions, and the first introduction I was like, all right, we had a phone call. I didn't find the guy at all physically attractive. He was vaping the entire time on the call, but I went out. I was social. I was fun. He didn't speak a word of English. He chain smoked the entire time. And then his friend was trying to translate questions to me. And he just kept on asking, like, do you like my friend? It
How
was
do you know this friend?
This other guy was the manager of my former Airbnb. I mean, I've just put it out to everyone. I even emailed my entire list and asked for introductions. 5,000 people. So embarrassing.
Okay.
I just also want to say in Austin, I went out with 90 different men, and almost all of them asked me on a second date. I was doing a lot of meditation at the time, so I was really calm. And like, I went on this guy, and it just didn't work out for me, Maria. I feel like I was so open, and I don't know. I don't know what's wrong. Like, what am I doing?
I think you're asking the wrong people. And so if you were my friend,
Yes.
first of all, I have introduced, not just as a matchmaker, but as a person, I have introduced a lot of my friends to my other friends. But having that accountability partner in the middle is, I think, really important because it has that sort of, I'm vouching for someone, right? And so what I'm hearing is that your newsletter blasting your acquaintances or we have to determine what is a friend and what is an acquaintance, because your Airbnb manager, that's an acquaintance. That's not a friend. Unless you've like been able to share a meal with them and they respect you and you respect them, those aren't friends. And that's a really low threshold, by the way, for a friend, but let's take it. And so what I'm hearing is, I think you might need new friends, like a new core group of friends. And
I
the
think
way
you
a
have a
core group of
point.
friends is created is with two elements. The first one is familiarity. The second is proximity. So in familiarity, it's about seeing what the word says, familiarness, right? Seeing people that you share certain values with, or you understand that subculture or social circle. I had listened to your previous episode and,
Thanks.
you mentioned that you were Jewish in heritage. You also mentioned that you have Ukrainian roots. And, what this tells me is that, okay, we can find people that we're familiar with in two sub communities, depending on where you live, right? We are familiar with the family dynamics of these two different subcultures. We can break bread with both groups. And then it's about proximity. So I don't want you to have to move to another state to find someone. I want you to be able to easily go there. And proximity is not just in location, but it's also in time. So for instance, can you invest in these friendships, if not on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis? And a really easy way to do a weekly basis is to, for instance, go to your local JCC and sign up for, a 6-week cooking class. Or for instance, I know in Chicago, there's like these 4-day baking intensives at Betty Baker's restaurant. There's improv classes. There's things that are happening, wine tastings at Italy, wine classes where you are going to see the same people for X amount of weeks. That way, the first time someone meets you, they're just getting familiar with you, but then you keep seeing them and you start to establish a friendship. These core friendships that you're going to make over the next 3 months, these new friendships that take over your social circle, they actually can vouch better for you among their friends. They can invite you to different events happening in their social circle, introducing you to even more familiar people. So for instance, if you were, let's say, to join a wine class or an intramural volleyball co-ed team, whatever, if you're seeing these people on a weekly basis for a couple of months, chances are that someone's going to introduce you, say, hey, come to my birthday party. Hey, I'm having a Galentine's, party. Hey, I'm having, this cookout on 4th of July. Like there's all these events that could take place between now and then. And also you telling them like, hey, I want to go out with people. Next time you're out with your friends, please invite me. And that way that invitation is open.
Maria,
What
I
that
love this.
that's such an exponential, that would change your social life projections exponentially. I mean, even in my own book, when I describe about how I met my husband, I explain that like the people that introduced me to my spouse, I didn't know he was going to be my spouse, but just a lot of people all at once, I only had met them 3 months before. And it was through the familiarness of the circles that we belonged in and the proximity. I saw them every week for that period. So they had that connection with me. They had that connection with him and their other friends that when I said, hey, invite me to things, they did. And a week later, I met the person. But, if you're going to take the online dating route, we have to be more careful because there's nobody vouching for them. Um, I tell people don't be as selective to just go out and see if you vibe for a drink, a walk and a coffee, but certainly be selective over who you share a meal with.
For sure. For sure. I think like what you said, of everything you said, what was really most useful to me, and you did say this in the book, and it's very powerful, is this idea of consistent community. And as a solo entrepreneur who works remotely, I can definitely see how not having that type of community is not working in my favor at
So what
all.
that tells me is that you need to join a WeWork or a co-working space where you have to go in, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Listen, I was a solopreneur from 2008 to 2009 to 2012. So 3 whole years. But despite then, there were no co-working spaces. What I, you know, there was a cafe near my house and 4 other solopreneurs who would meet there every Monday and every Wednesday for 5 hours. And I was able to access all of their friend groups. They were able to access mine. A lot of us dated each other. But when WeWork came out, I think it was in 2012, I was just blown away. I was just like, wow, this is amazing. I wish this existed. And by then I had my own office where I was seeing, my employees and other people in that space. But even then, because I was going into the office every day, I was seeing similar faces. I was creating new relationships with other people on my floor that were not related to my business. I think, remote work is really great, but at the same time, I think that it doesn't help if you are, especially a solopreneur, and it doesn't help if you are single. You still need to recreate somehow the village, the town square, right? Because that is how we're wired. We are wired to connect. And it's just not going to be possible if you're at home all day alone, right? So, the best advice I would give to anyone who is experiencing solopreneurship or who is working from home, even if you work for a big corporation, is ask that corporation's work that you're working with, hey, can you get me a floating desk at the local co working space? I'd like to be there, once or twice a week. Or if you yourself are your own boss, investing, it's not that expensive. Investing in a local co-working space that has an open floor plan, it has events. There's just it's not just WeWork, but there's other co-working spaces like even Eureka Hub in Orange County. There's this one in Morristown, New Jersey near my house where they even have an events calendar. So if you belong to this co-working space, you have access to all of their programming that happens after work hours. And that is what you need because now you know the people that you're co-working with, like you're on the same floor, you see them, so that after when you have the programming, you can have those more conversations. People bring a friend, you meet that friend. That is what could be missing in your formula right now is access to people that you see every day, every week.
I love that. So, what if I, find a consistent community? I meet a guy. This has actually happened to me before. I met a guy who I think was a good fit in many ways. And I guess on the first or the second date, he kissed me, and I just really didn't like. I felt very forced and I felt really uncomfortable, but I couldn't. I felt like if I told him I didn't want to, it would hurt his feelings and he would think I was unattracted to him. And that's happened to me also in other dates where I wanna kind of get to know the guy better because I feel like, well, I'm not attracted to him right now, but I could grow to like him, but then he kisses me. Or, like, I used to go on dates and I wouldn't kiss the guy, and I realized, like, I had to kiss them if they would ask me out again because they had to know I was attracted to him. How can I navigate that?
Do you not want to kiss people on a first date?
I mean, it depends on the person. I feel like what I read in the dating books is if you don't have a spark, that's actually kind of a good thing. And in your book, physical touch is my love language. So when I kiss someone, it's very intimate and special. And I feel like with these guys, if I could have kind of held off the kissing a little bit until I could have gotten to know them, it would be great. But then if I don't kiss them, they're just going to feel like, oh, this girl's unattracted to me.
The people that you kissed, were you attracted to them?
I was kind of trying to figure it out. Like, I felt like maybe I could be if I got to know them better. But I
Right.
wasn't really feeling it that moment.
I mean, I feel like you're second guessing yourself. Like, I think your
Yes.
instinct is correct. I mean, I've been in situations where I kiss someone on the first date. And I've been in situations where I didn't kiss someone on the first date, but we kissed on the second, right? But if I wasn't feeling it either times, yeah, we're not going back out again. Like it doesn't really matter, right? Like it's not about, oh, let it grow. Like growth is not about like kissing. It's about their overall vibe. Like, are they familiar to you? Right? Like I hear from people all the time saying, like, oh, I don't know if I was physically attracted to them. That doesn't mean I wouldn't have sex with them, right? What I'm hearing when someone says I wasn't physically attracted to them is I don't know if I'm familiar with this look because every person I've dated before, or every person I'm bombarded with on my social media algorithm looks this way. But now I'm being presented with this and I'm not sure how I feel about it. So now to go back to the date, if you are not ready to go on to kiss someone, you have to not kiss them. And what I would say to you is, to not kiss them means, hey, I think I want to kiss you, but I want to get to know you a little bit more. That doesn't mean I'm not attracted. Like, just say it. That does not mean I'm not attracted to you. I just really want to get to know you, but I'll tell you when I'm ready to kiss you. Is that okay? If he has such a fragile ego, great. You just learned something about them. You don't need to see them again,
I love that.
right? I don't think I think what for men especially because they're so simple, they just want direction and just very clear communication. So, you're scared of like, well, if I don't kiss them, I don't want them to think I'm not attracted to them. And it's like you could just say, I'm not ready to kiss you yet, but I will let you know when I'm ready.
Hmm. I love that. I'm gonna just clip that and memorize it, put it on repeat so I
Yeah.
can say exactly what you said. I mean, sometimes when I'm dating, I feel like I'm 10 years old. I have no idea what I'm doing. It takes me to this place of profound immaturity where
But
I
this is
just don't
why
feel like I
the
can.
more I'm learning, about you, the more I'm thinking like, I don't think your first date should be at a typical date menu. I think most of your first date should be, let's go for a walk and a gelato, or let's go for a walk and a coffee, see if we vibe. And if we do vibe, then we can have our fancy pants first date. And that's exactly how you say it. And let me tell you, most men, they're like, great, I don't have to spend any money. Fantastic. Let's see if we vibe. So that's what I would do is like think of it that way, you know.
Beautiful. Okay, Maria, I'm so grateful you for giving these insights, and I feel somewhat self-conscious about my ineptitude with dating, and I just really appreciate your honesty with me. Oh my god. It just I don't know, like, I feel like I've tried so hard in this area, and I just, like, don't wanna be, like, trying, like, all these techniques for the next 40
I've
years.
given you no techniques, by the way. All I have said is you just have to be honest.
Well, the consistent group of friends is a technique. That's
That's normal. Okay.
like, when
Hold
should I
on a
just give up
second.
on
That
this?
is not a technique. You think it's a technique because you live in a post-pandemic world. But there was a time you were old enough to remember what you did before 2020. There was a time when you went to work and in your little handbag, your big handbag, you had a pair of shoes, you had a statement necklace, you had dangly earrings, you had your lipstick, and you would go from your work environment to your let's go have a drink after work environment. And
Yeah,
we all did that. Anyone over the age of 30 remembers this period. Okay.
yeah,
And that was normal. It was normal to go out 3 nights a week. Even if you were in a relationship, I mean, do you remember 17 magazine? Do you remember Cosmo? It even had a section in the magazines that said, here are 8 transition outfits from
yes,
day to night. Like that
absolutely,
was a thing. I mean, that's literally Express Clothing's entire business model.
yeah,
The business casual to evening look, right? You get your little peplum top or your little wrap dress. And then here's your, sluttier earrings for the evening and you're going out. Like that's a thing, right? And what's happened is the pandemic happened. We were all home for a really long time. A lot of environments became work from home or hybrid. And we're all fighting it because we're like, well, I like doing my laundry during the workday. I'm with you. I work from home most of the week too. The difference is, though, is that I see like 18 different humans every single day, not just the people that live with me, but the other parents I have to interact with when I take my kids to extracurricular activities, my employees, and whatnot, right? For you specifically, and anyone else who's like single in this post pandemic world, and I hate saying that in 2026, but it's because I have to remind people how you're currently operating 9 to 5 is not normal. This is not normal. It is not normal. And the only reason the difference between this pandemic and the pandemic that happened 100 years ago is the internet. Because even 100 years ago, when they went through their pandemic in, 1920, they didn't have internet at home. They still had to go out. They still had to do little transition outfits. They all did these things, right? It's just now we're all logged in. We're all on our phones. We're all on our computers, and we're not logging off. And then suddenly we're like, oh, well, why? What I said to you is not a technique. It's just trying to remind you, you used to do this.
Yes. Well, in fact, for me, I've always been either like a tutor or an entrepreneur. So I'm a little bit different in that regard. But I think that what I'm actually really thinking about right now is timeline, because I realize for whatever reason, in my 20s and mid 30s, I was terrified of men. And I was so scared of rejection. And I thought that men just kind of came up to you and you were supposed to pretend that you didn't like them. So I spent like 15 years feeling like I must be horribly ugly and no one has the courage to tell me. And that's why I don't have a boyfriend. And then I started doing dating coaching. So I just have to forgive myself a little bit because I am kind of new to dating. And I have to, because I didn't have confidence before.
Well, you're rocking this dress now.
Oh my God, thank you, Maria.
Okay, so I think
I
think you're really hard on yourself, and I don't think you need to be. I think you know, we always think of like friendship being organic and relationships being intentional, but it's actually the reverse. Your friendships are the ones that have to be super intentional because then they will organically send you to a relationship.
think it's like you are right. And I am really hard on myself. It's just that every single thing in my life, I've always been able to achieve. And I'm so frustrated
You're
that
achieving it now, though.
I achieved finding a boyfriend.
Yeah. You've always, listen, there's other people who don't date at all. Like the fact that you went on 90 dates, like that's amazing.
That's true.
There's people
I
who
had
have never been on a single
time.
date who are your age.
Oh my.
So listen, and I've gotten them in relationships. So I don't think you're a lost cause.
I appreciate that because I feel like a lost cause. Like maybe I'm undateable.
You're not, I don't believe that. If Stephen Miller can find someone to marry him to procreate with him, there's hope for everybody.
He's pretty too. I mean, I feel like I am so loving and caring and I love sex and I just want to I'm like nurturing and I have, creative and pretty. I just feel like that would be really nice for some guy out there.
Yeah. But I think you're being really hard on yourself.
I am. I'm so hard on myself.
I also
But
think
the
that
harder I am, the more I will have a chance of getting what I want.
I don't know about that, but I do know that like all men remember how you made them feel on a first date. You just said all these characteristics about you and I think they're great, but what they're going to remember is, if you were did she laugh at my jokes? And did you or did you earnestly laugh at them or are you faking it? Did she just like women also always remember how safe they felt and how much a man listened to them on a date. And this is
I have
being really
amazing
heteronormative.
first date success. Everybody wants me on a second date. It's just like that's not the problem. I think the problem is like where to find these men and that I need to expand my social circle and start surrounding me with myself with the kind of friends that I resonate
Yeah,
with.
that would change everything. That
That
would
would
change
change
everything.
because I feel like I do self-isolate a little bit. Like I have such great friends, but they're kind of spread out all over the world and I kind of hide sometimes a little bit. And if I follow the friendship, the men will follow. Like if I'm not finding friends where I am, like go to a place where I will find friends.
No, I 100% agree with you. The relationship would follow. I mean, one of the things that I always think about is, so I go to church every Sunday, and I don't really consider myself religious. I just happen to go to church because that's my community center. I'm part of the Greek American community. That's what's attached to. So what me going to church every Sunday does, though, is that I see the same 100 people every Sunday for the last, I don't know, 30 years. And not only do I know their grandparents, I know their parent, but even my husband who entered my community 8 years ago, 10 years ago I got married, but 8 years ago is when when we had our kids. So like, that's when we started going like, okay, my husband in the last 5 years, 4 years, he's created some such strong friendships on his own as a man. So he talks, even if it's for 10 minutes, he's talking to the same 8 men every Sunday. And having that accountability person, having that check-in, being invited to their birthday parties, like having that community is just it's so rich. It's so, that's to me, that's a measure of wealth, right? Because there are people that care about you. They care about your well-being. They don't want you to be spread out. They don't want you to be in a different city. They want you to be there because they also use you as their anchor. Okay, another Sunday, I get to see her, and that's what matters. Think, in looking at my community, if I need something or if my husband's needs something, we know who to ask. And if we don't know who that person is, we'll ask the people who do know who that is. Do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And that's how you build community. That's how you get invited to everything. And I'm not saying you have to become religious, but there is so much programming where there are event planners that are just dying for you to get there. Your JCC, the Y, your local nonprofits, your consulates. If you're in a big city, there's consulates. They have events that they list every single week. Your national parks, everything, they all have things happening. It's a matter of going there and then finding the people that you can consistently see each week.
Beautiful. And Maria, I just wanted to mention, I did see very clearly in the book that you're not a woo-woo kind of person. So it's a little bit odd that I dove right into the esoteric. But yeah, I think that there's all kinds of people who go to church. And like for me, I feel like community is spirit. There's something really
Yeah,
transcendent about
for
that.
sure.
Do you have tips on leveraging family to help you find someone? I mean, my aunts are so amazing and well connected. I have one in Dallas. She has her whole prayer group praying for me to find a boyfriend. I have another aunt who's a Mormon in Portland. She's super liberal. She knows tons of people. She has people praying for me to find a boyfriend too. My mom is like a crazy networker. She advises students applying to medical school. Like, I think they all want to help me. Is there some way I can empower them for success?
It goes back to proximity and familiarity. So I love that you have that familiar part of that formula, but the proximity is not working for you.
No, I'm
Because
really
again,
sure.
it's not just about distance, it's about time, right? Seeing
Yeah.
them consistently. So to
Mm,
me, it's a matter of, I don't know how much a family can leverage you without you seeing them every week.
I think you're right.
Also,
I'm
don't
gonna try
forget
not to
like
be
a
too hard on
family is like
myself.
what you're born into. There's no choice here, but your friends are your chosen family, your good
Mm,
friends. And I mean, if you have a sibling and you get along, they're definitely your secret your past keeper. That's how I look at my sister. My sister and I are very different personalities. We do work together, but we are very different personality types. But she's also my past keeper. She is the key to all
mm,
of my history, right? She's the only one who understands the house that I grew up in. She was the only one
mm.
that's going to understand what it was like, you know, being a certain subculture in a different country in the way that I experienced it because she experienced it, right? But from there, I have a group of friends that I like to invest in that it's funny because my sister and I are like so addicted to each other. But if we weren't as close, I might be closer to other friends just because we have, a certain lifestyle that we both participate in that we want to be a part of, right? And I think leveraging friends is always going to be inherently better than your own family.
It's true. And you've helped me see ways in which I've isolated myself. I'm not sure why exactly, but I decided to live in Croatia. I met two best friends who I'm madly in love with. They come here maybe every couple months. We talk remotely, normally. My mom
How
is
long are
an
you staying in Croatia for?
I have no idea. I just cast this international search for a soulmate, and I've interviewed like 15 matchmakers on my
So
show.
what
So
I would say to you here is like, if you're going to be in Croatia, you have to create a community in Croatia,
for sure,
right?
for
And
sure.
I'm certain that if you go on whatever event listing website is used in Croatia, there's things listed. There are courses, there's cooking classes, there's activities, but there's definitely things that happen that you could participate in. And therefore you seeing consistently the same people. Now, if you can find those things, you can be that person too, since you're so entrepreneurial. But it shouldn't be about business networking. It should just be about connecting and then you get like a hot
Yeah,
wide.
I know
So for
how to
instance, like
do it. Yeah, I know
one
how
thing
to
I would
do
say is
it.
like create game nights,
Game nights
so
are
this
great. That's
way.
what I tell our homeschoolers to do, is have a weekly game night.
So
Yeah,
having a weekly game night at your favorite pub can really do wonders because people bring a friend of a friend all the time.
Love it. Maria, will you walk down a hypothetical road with me?
Yes.
If I paid you $1,000,000 to be my matchmaker, and I was like, Maria, I just want you to do this for me. What would be your approach to finding my husband? If I could meet him anywhere in the world, like, let's just pretend I'm not in Croatia right now. Let's pretend I'm in New York City or
I
San
mean, matchmaking
Francisco.
is such a different animal.
Yeah.
And we take, no matter what someone pays us, we always take the same approach, which is we would look for straight men in your geographic location, not that far away.
Okay.
So we would try to limit to like maybe 30 miles. This is now in matchmaking, right? Not through
Yeah.
friends.
By the way, I have a friend who I really wanna hire you, so this is part of my agenda for asking.
Mhm.
It's really mostly for me. I'm just curious what you would do.
But we would first look to see like are there men in our system or men that we can network with like that are within one or two connections. We're My company, Agape Match, is 100% inbound. I don't chase people down the street. I don't reach out to people on LinkedIn or all that stuff like, oh, well, do you want to be my client? Like, I don't work that way. I want people to, on their own, go to agapematch.com and join our database so that we can consider them as potential matches. So and we've done a great job doing that because so much of our efforts in marketing and the promotion of our company is for inbound leads only. There's a certain level of trust that someone has that we really love when it's inbound. They're excited. And, we would try to see like, do we have men that fit you know, what our client is looking for that also want to meet her too or him, depending on who the client is. And if that's the case, then we would start the process of coordination. And if we don't have those people, if we don't have the recruit methodology to do that, because sometimes there's certain personalities that we just don't have access to, organically, then we would not take that person as a client. I don't think matchmaking is the solution for most straight single women, like as a paying client. I think what really works is programs like the Roundtable or our other program called the Forever Blueprint or Agape Escape. So these three separate programs that we've created for women. So the first one, the Roundtable, is community accountability. So every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern, we have Roundtable Live. I'm usually on. If it's not me, it's a member of my team. And we answer questions, we create goals, we tell people do this, 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 and come back next week and tell us where you're at. And that really puts people's feet to the fire. And everyone is just kind of rooting for you. Every week, it could be anywhere between 20 and 70 people on a live call. And I find that to be really helpful. And that's only $47 a month. So I don't need you to pay me $1 million. That's just $47 a month.
What a deal. I'm signing up tomorrow.
Yeah. Our other program is the Forever Blueprint, which, similar to the book, it would teach you in a collaborative space. So it's live with me and myself and another matchmaker on my team, where we do that manifest, do compatibilities together, and help you navigate dating in a 3-day intensive. And you could do that on demand at $500. So you do the videos on your own, or you have that collaborative, incredible experience. It's amazing for $2,000. And then the third, which I think is probably one of the most effective things to pair onto that, is Agape Escapes, which is, friendship through adventure. And yeah, you're meeting a lot of people who might live in different cities than you when you come to Greece with us, but those friendship bonds are so strong post trip that, those people are flying into your city. They're bringing other friends along that already live in that city that become now your new friends. I've seen so many women be bridesmaids to weddings. I've seen so many women set up their other siblings, cousins, coworkers with other women from the group. I've seen people organize a Taylor Swift concert going where they all went together, I think to London. So just so many solid friendships come after that and that support system that started because of how we have integrated our retreats in Greece to create the environment for friendship to flourish. And that's a whole separate conversation. But these are three programs, and those trips cost anywhere between like $5,000 and $6,000. But that is way more an effect. Such a much more effective use of your money to meeting your future goals. So if you did all three of those things, you're talking about like maybe up to $10,000. But instead of a matchmaking program, like the only matchmakers that I trust to take on women, they start at 50,000, and I only trust a few. I don't really trust a lot of matchmaking services that take on women that I really trust to take on single straight women for matchmaking. And if you want to have a discussion about that, we always welcome people to call us and have a discovery call so we can refer you to the right person. But great matchmaking services for single women that I trust can range between 50 and $100,000. And I don't think hiring a matchmaker as a single woman is the best use of your money. Like if you
Why
have
not?
that money laying around, do other programming first. It's not about going on a meditative exercise. It's not about, like I think that there are programs. Like I feel like personally for me as a business, our mission is always to connect people. And I want to sleep well at night. And it's really important to me to have programs that are solution oriented and like you gain something at the end. If that's putting your feet to the fire of actually doing everything that we talked about in the last 55 minutes, then great, because your life will be completely different in 3 months if you do the things that I told you to do today instead of saying, well, next week I'll do it and next week I'll do it. Like, no, it's about personal training here to doing what you're supposed to be doing to create those friendships. Sometimes I hear from women that did hire a matchmaker and I'm like, well, who'd you hire? And it's like they hired this one that was like 10,000. I'm like, just because I know how much it costs, like to find those kinds of men who like the amount of men you have to source to come to a matchmaker to then also be matches for you. It's a lot of work. And the last thing I want you to do is hire someone who was the most affordable, but now has to take on like 50 clients at once just to make their ends meet. So like high volume to justify those low prices. So they're not giving you their full attention.
Absolutely. Maria, I just am so grateful to you for taking the time to be with me today. It's been a dream of mine for a long time to really be able to explore some of these topics with you. And I think I have some great action items in terms
I'm
of
excited for
expanding.
you. I really do hope, and I want to know what happens in 3 months. I would
Thank
love to
you.
hear an
I will
update.
definitely keep you up to date. Before we sign off, is there anything that I or this community can do to support you? It doesn't have to do with matchmaking. It could be something political or anything that you want to bring to our audience today.
Just follow me on Instagram. That's where most of where I live. I'm at Matchmaker Maria, and if you're interested in any of those programs that I talked about today, head over to matchmakermaria.com, and you can be also redirected to my matchmaking website at agapematch.com from there as well. But it also takes you through all of our programs.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Maria.
Absolutely. Thank you again.